And we are doing part 4 of When You Follow Your Dreams When You Have ADHD. And if you haven't been following along, we're reading this book called The Dream Giver with lots of comments and context for ADHD. So the next chapter is called Ordinary Enters the Wasteland. If you're new to the series, I encourage you to go back to part 1 and watch that first so that you understand, well, what it is that we're talking about. I am so passionate about ADHDers following their dreams because ADHDers have such magical things to gift to the world. And when you can get out of your own way to be able to do that, it's fantastic. So I'm in the business of helping ADHDers get out of their own way. So let's read the next chapter and talk about the journey of following your dreams, because there's lots of obstacles that end up coming in the way. Okay, so Ordinary enters the wasteland. Ordinary slept deeply and woke humming his unfamiliar tune. The fears of leaving his comfort zone were gone now. That's important. The fears that we have about leaving our comfort zone don't stay forever. Once you move through them, like, it becomes easier and easier and easier until you get to another place where you're moving out of your comfort zone again. But it does, that massive fear that comes, it does go away. It does fade out. His border bullies were behind him. His step was light and he traveled into the unknown. Around each new bend, he expected to reach the land of promise, where he would find his big dream. But he didn't find it. Instead, he soon found himself at the edge of a wide chasm. A haze obscured the view below. When he reached the bottom, he saw what lay ahead, and what he saw made his heart sink. He saw miles and miles of nothing but sand, rocks, and a few scraggly trees. He was standing on the edge of an empty wasteland. How could any wonderful dream live here, he thought. He wasn't sure, but the path continued on, curving away into the dreary distance. So he decided to go on. Ordinary walked and walked. Every time he got hungry, he opened his suitcase and ate. And every time he got thirsty, he opened it and drank. And every time he thought about his dream, he decided to keep going. Time passed. Ordinary's skin burned, his feet blistered, his bones ached. One day blurred into another, and then one day he got hungry and opened his case and didn't find anything to eat. That was the day Ordinary began to worry. He got called out to the dream giver for food, but he got no answer. 2 days later, he ran out of water. He called out to the dream giver again, and again he heard nothing. Fortunately, that was also the day Ordinary managed to find a trickle of water coming from a rock. At least now he was only starving. But if he was smart enough to find water, maybe he could find food too. Sure enough, it wasn't too long before he spotted a strange bush with some strange desert fruit hanging from its branches. Ordinary tried one. It didn't taste sweet, but it didn't taste sour either. So he ate his fill. Still, the dream giver was nowhere in sight. Moving past the comfort zone, moving through all of the worries of all the people around you, and then coming to a space where there's like nothing. And you're running out of food, you're running out of money to be able to pay for rent or to be able to do whatever it is, can be part of the journey also. It's not always part of the journey. It is really easy to get disheartened at this space in the journey and to give up. I urge you not to give up. Let's keep reading and see what happens. Because even though Ordinary ran out of food and he ran out of water. He started to worry. What happened? Even though he didn't hear from the dream giver, he was provided for. There was food, there was water. It's so easy for us to focus on the things that we don't have, the lack, instead of focusing on what we do have. So, like, it could be really easy for Ordinary at this point to focus on the fact that he doesn't have ongoing food and water and he's not hearing from the dream giver. Or it could be like, okay, well, at least I do have food for today. At least I have water for today. And then continue on. Like, there's part of this journey is faith. Now, whatever it is that you believe in, a higher power, whether it's God, spirit, the universe, something else, it is imperative to trust in faith. And now faith is not blind. It's moving with action. Believing, having faith, and doing the actions. It is not easy to do. Following your dreams is not for the faint of heart. And if you've gotten this far in the series, I know that you have a really big heart and are really wanting to pursue the thing that you are feeling called to, the thing that you are so fucking passionate about. And I'm proud of you. Let's keep going. Okay. More time passed. The longest hours and days Ordinary could ever remember passed. Desperately, he began to look for a way out. One day, he followed what looked like a shortcut over a ridge, but it led to a canyon that ended in quicksand. He tried traveling at night when it was cooler, but he kept losing the trail. Every delay made him more determined to find a quicker route, but every attempt only led to another dead end. Again and again, Ordinary lost his way. Again and again, he cried out for the dream giver to show him the way, but no answer came. Why had he ever trusted the dream giver to guide him in the first place? The day came when Ordinary finally gave up. He sat on his suitcase and refused to move until the dream giver showed up with a plan. But the dream giver didn't show up that day or the next. Ordinary had never felt so lost and alone. He became angry. He got angrier and angrier. And then a hard, hot wind began to blow. So in the journey of pursuing your dreams, if you're building a business, if you're writing a book, creating whatever it is that you're creating, part of the process is failing. Part of the process is failing. So you'll write what you think is a really great chapter, reread it, and realize it's awful and tear it up and throw it away. You'll, in the example of me where I'm building my business, I will create this event for people to show up to and no one will show up. You'll do this thing where you're having a live event on TikTok and nobody shows up. Or you have, like, there are all these things that happen that can be considered as failures. It's information to learning how to tweak it, to do it again, to keep going. There's my coach talks about test, tweak, and polish. So you're going to test the thing, tweak it, polish it, keep going. And progress over perfection. So you're going to keep going and doing the thing. But Ordinary feels lost. So you could fail and fail and fail after you've tried and tried and tried and then feel like giving up. That's also can be part of the journey of following your dreams. This part of the journey sucks. I'm not going to lie or sugarcoat it. It does suck. And it's also very important. It is an important part of the journey. I know that I've come to this space many times. It sucks. It's frustrating. It's hard to be in the middle of it. And it has been important for me every time I've come to this place. And every time I've seen somebody else come to this place. There's something that's really important about it. So let's find out why this is important for Ordinary. The wind blew all that day and all the next. Sand blew into Ordinary's eyes. It blew into his teeth and ears. When the wind finally stopped, Ordinary stood to his feet. But as far as he could see, there was only sand. The path to his dream had disappeared completely. Obviously, his entire trip through the wasteland had been a waste. Hot tears coursed down his dirty cheeks. "You're not a dream giver," he shouted at the sky. "You're a dream taker. I trusted you. You promised to be with me and help me, and you didn't." Then Ordinary stumbled in despair across the sandy waste, dragging his empty suitcase behind him. His dream was dead, and now he wanted to die too. When he came to a scraggly tree, he lay down in its scraggly patch of shade and closed his eyes. Again, this part sucks. And if you are a person of faith who believes in God, Spirit, the universe, Spirit, God, whatever it is that you believe in, is not, it can hold your anger. So Ordinary yelling at the sky and saying, basically, what the fuck? You gave me this dream, you told me to go, and now I'm doing it, and now why? There was no point in doing this. What the fuck? The number of times I've come to this place where I'm shouting at the sky, God, Spirit, whatever. And the beautiful thing is that God is big enough to hold it all. Spirit is big enough to hold it all. And it feels so depressing and frustrating. And again, tears are coming to my eyes. I'm getting emotional. I remember these spaces. It sucks. It's so hard to be in that space. Okay, that night he slept the sleep of a dreamless dreamer. The next morning, Ordinary heard something. Startled, he peered up to see a shimmering somebody sitting in the branches of the tree. "Who are you?" he asked as she climbed down to the ground. "My name is Faith." Of course, I was already talking about Faith, right? "My name is Faith," she said. "The dream giver sent me to help you." "But it's too late," cried Ordinary. "My dream is dead. When I needed the dream giver most, he was nowhere in sight." "What do you need that you haven't received?" asked Faith. "Well, if it weren't for the few springs of water I found," answered Ordinary, "I'd be dead of thirst by now." "Yes, and?" she asked. "If it weren't for the fruit I found, I'd be a walking skeleton," he replied. "Wait, I am a walking skeleton. I could die of starvation any minute." "Oh my," Faith murmured. "And?" "Well," huffed Ordinary, "a little guidance would have been nice. Ever since I came here, it's been one delay after another. I've been wandering in circles since I don't know when. What a waste." "I see," said Faith, nodding. "So what will you do now?" "Just tell me how to get back to familiar," he said. "I'm sorry," she said, "but I can't help you with that." "That figures," said Ordinary. "The dream giver sends me a helper who can't even help." "You might be right," said Faith, "but that's for you to decide." Then Faith walked away in a direction Ordinary felt sure was wrong. It wasn't long before Ordinary began to have second thoughts. What if he was wrong? He wished he hadn't been so rude to the somebody named Faith, and he began to miss her. He realized that while they were talking, he had felt hope for the first time in a very long time. Ordinary jumped to his feet and scanned the horizon. "Faith!" he cried. But she was nowhere in sight. "Faith!" he cried again, but there was no reply. Then Ordinary had an idea. He climbed the scraggly tree to the top. From there he could see Faith in the distance. As quickly as he could, he climbed down and set off in the same direction. Later that same day, Ordinary was eating some fruit beside a trickle of water when he saw his journey through the wasteland in a whole new way. Food enough for the day, water when he needed a drink, a path to follow that led to faith. How could he have been so blind? Even the dream giver had been nowhere in sight. Oh, even when the dream giver had been nowhere in sight, he had always been near. That was the day, too, that Ordinary looked at his empty suitcase and decided it was time to leave it behind. He made a makeshift knapsack, took his dream journal and feather and ink, and walked on. So we see this burst of anger, which comes when this place of suckiness happens. Like despair and depression and frustration because the thing that you wanted to build and create is not happening for one reason or another. So of course there's going to be anger. There's a lot of grief happening. But as I mentioned earlier, there was the shift in focus. It's like viewing all of the lack and the things he didn't have to what is here. Oh, I am being provided for. Okay, I'm going to focus on that. And I don't need the suitcase anymore. It's just dragging me behind. So let me release it. In order to up level, we get to leave things behind. That's really hard lesson. That sometimes includes people, sometimes that includes things, sometimes that includes who knows what, but it feels like we're giving up so much. And it can feel disheartening. And it's part of the process. This journey isn't for the faint of heart. I will say that over and over and over again. And it's so important. Okay. After that, whenever Ordinary came to a scraggly tree, he climbed it to look for Faith. And when he had her in sight, he marked the direction and started walking again. One day, Ordinary met some dreamers returning to Familiar. They told him a sad story. They had crossed the wasteland and nearly reached the land of promise. But when they encountered giants so large and overwhelming that the dreamers felt as small as grasshoppers, and the dream giver had been nowhere in sight. The Nobodies sounded convincing, and he recognized their weariness. But as they continued talking, he saw something more. They had stopped trusting the dream giver, and now they were traveling in the opposite direction from Faith. When the Nobodies strongly warned him that what lay ahead was too hard, he saw something else. He had changed. His trip through the wasteland had not been a waste. Now he was prepared for what lay ahead, no matter how hard. Travel safely, he told the returning Nobodies. But I'll be going on. As Ordinary pressed on through the desert, his dream peeped brightly in his chest again. And the more the sun blazed, the more Ordinary believed that he could find a land of promise, no matter how long it took. If only he took the way of faith. One morning on the far side of the desert, Ordinary wrote down the truth about the wasteland. After crossing the waters, I thought my dream was just around the corner. Instead, I found a wasteland. I was disappointed by the delay, and my doubts about the dream giver only made things worse. Now I see that the wasteland was not a waste. It has taught me to trust the dream giver, even when he's nowhere in sight. I think I am stronger now. I'm following faith, and every day I feel more prepared for whatever lies ahead. So as I was sharing earlier, the importance of the wasteland, there is importance of the wasteland, and Ordinary is starting to see that, and it's learning to trust even more in himself. He's learning to grow in trust with himself and confidence. And the thing about trusting yourself is it's a muscle that we get to keep practicing, and it continues to grow. It's something that grows over time. We get to build more and more and more and more trust with ourselves. And the more evidence that you can get to show, to prove that you are able to take care of yourself, that you are provided for, that you are learning and growing, that you are continuing down the path that you know is for you, the more that you can keep going in that faith. And as an ADHDer, you are taught so much not to trust yourself for so many reasons from very early on. Whatever story it is that you've been told when you were younger about being disorganized, always being late, not being able to get your shit together, like whatever the stories are, whether they're true or not, these are the programming that you've been told from the outside world or even from your family. And so learning to trust yourself as an ADHDer can be harder than for other people around you in your life. And so you get to continue to build that evidence and build that trust with yourself so that you can keep going. And these wasteland periods are preparing for what's next. And we're going to see in the next chapter, in part 5, something else. And eventually we'll get to the Valley of Giants that this Nobodies were just talking about. And we'll see how the wasteland prepared or didn't prepare ordinary for that part of the journey. If you are in the wasteland right now, I see you. I have been there, and you are not alone. There's other people who have been in that position as well. It sucks. There's no way about that. And hope is not all lost. And part of experiencing life on earth comes with the highs and lows. We can't experience the heights of joys without also experiencing the lows of sorrows and despair. Because we only know the difference by being able to compare them. If there was always joy, there wouldn't be anything to compare it to know that it's joy. And so know that the wasteland isn't a forever space. It's temporary. And you, as you continue to build trust with yourself and build tools, like you'll have the tools to be able to continue to move through, to continue on, to trudge through with faith, even though you don't know what's going to happen, even though you don't know when the dreamland is going to come, you don't know, but you have the tools to keep going. So I'm sending you so much love. Keep going. You are doing such a great job. Continue to trust in yourself because you are fucking amazing. You're very powerful and you do have the resources to keep going. And if you don't, find people in your life who love you and care about you and support you and want to see you win and are not putting their fears on you, who can urge you to keep going. You got this.